Life is weirdly a lot harder than we've been told. And midlife? That's a whole other can of worms that I was completely unprepared for. What about you? But here's the good news. There are so many new skills and mindsets that we can learn to make even the toughest days a little bit better. But if you're like me in your midlife, you just haven't learned them. Welcome to Thrive with Kira, a smart and scary podcast for women in midlife that teaches the skills to get more joy and love in your life. Join me weekly as I teach science-based, smarty-farty topics and break them down into bite-sized lessons that you can apply to your life, all while sharing my own shit show life stories that you can learn from. I'll be talking regularly about getting more joy on a daily basis, thriving in midlife, yes, you can, figuring out menopause, healthy dating and relationships, building self-worth, body positivity and neutrality, growth mindset, adult friendships, and also easy mindfulness. So we can stop just surviving and start learning how to thrive. Welcome to Thrive. Hello there, sugar pantses, and welcome to Thrive. Were you a little shocked by a new song and a new intro? That's okay, because I'm a little shocked because in the last 48 hours, I decided to bite the bullet and make the pivot that I have been slowly working on for the past 3 to 6 months. This is the new Thrive podcast, and you might be a little blindsided, have a little whiplash from the changes in this podcast over the last year or so, since COVID particularly. And I want to talk about it a little bit. I will tell you this, I have not prepared much. This is off the cuff. I'm not going to say it perfectly, and I'm just going to tell you that right now. I wish that I would have created a more eloquent statement, but here we are, and this was needed. Here's where I'm at. If you've been following me for a while, which I know some of you have, I regularly talk to someone for the first time who's maybe been listening to this podcast for 8 years or more. And I'll be like, wait, what? How come you've never reached out and said hello? But if you have been around, I've been here for a long time, talking a lot about dating, but also just talking about life and how to thrive in life, mostly through the perspective of getting into solid, healthy relationships. I still believe that. I believe that in my heart of hearts, and there is no magic eraser that can erase the insane amount of knowledge that I have about dating and relationships and love for that matter. That's not going anywhere. It will still be coming on this podcast. I'm just going to be talking about other things too, all going back to my positive psychology roots that I've been using as a base for this podcast and my business now for about the last 6-7 years. Right now is more challenging than ever. And I don't actually think that's a bad thing. I think we're going through some major growing pains as a culture, as a society, and I'm definitely talking about what I'm seeing here in the States, maybe Canada. I have a lot of Canadian clients. So if you live somewhere else, this may not apply to you. But something after COVID really shifted for dating. And I'm not calling it good or bad. I'm not actually saying anything about it. But it changed the type of women that I'm talking to, which are smart as fuck, educated, stuff who likes my shit. And that's how I would describe myself. But something about COVID, I think, woke something up in us to say, maybe we don't have to date to be happy. Maybe I can work on myself, or I can go after the things that I want in life. And it may be with a relationship, and it's okay if it isn't. I have honestly no comment to whether people should be dating or not. I will say I am lucky to have found a great match for me, and I think an overall good person in general. I think the way that dating is right now, it's really hard to see and find those people. I've made it very well known that I think that dating apps are unsafe and not very helpful in the overall of dating and dating culture and healthy dating. I think it's fucked us up a little bit with our expectations. I also think that people are scared right now. I think there's a lot of fear. We came off this pandemic barely talking about it. Everybody's, what'd you do during the pandemic? I don't know. Try not to freak out on a daily basis that everybody I knew in the world wasn't going to crumble and die. We are not back to life as usual or business as usual. I don't know if we will ever be. Because what I do think the pandemic has done, just like midlife, do you see what I did there? It has cracked us the fuck open and made us reflect. But it's also made us isolate. And it's made a lot of people, I'm going to say it, in particularly men, very scared at the changes that are happening in our society. I recently was on TikTok, which I do not think is a educated resource for anyone. However, I am interested about the conversations happening on there. And one of them recently with some of the younger generations is this concept of decentering men. This concept that as a woman, many of us, particularly if we're over the age of 35, we're still raised with some really deep fucking seated beliefs that we are here for men, to entertain them, to look good for them, to please them, to make sure that they feel good at all times, to take care of their feelings. And seeing this, I was like, fuck yes. Fuck yes. But because how can any relationship be healthy when only one person's needs are being taken care of? And when I shared this concept with Danny, my husband, he even said, I think that's great for women because he gets it. But there's a lot of guys that don't get it. And there's a lot of guys right now are scared at the power and changes that are happening for women. The community that's happening with women. We are stronger in numbers. And I think all of this shit is going to shake out better for us in the long run. But I don't know how long we're going to be going through the shit to get there. And to tell you the absolute fucking truth, I have zero interest right now in fighting for romantic partnerships, knowing that about 70 to 80% of them out there are shit, particularly for women. Now, that's not across the board. That's not saying that there's not plenty of men who are struggling. I'm not saying anything about that. Today, I am talking to women. And in fact, this podcast is regularly and mostly for women, and not because men, I haven't called you in and welcomed you through the door for the last 2 to 3 years, where I created programs for you that you never came to, where I created beautiful coaching and other opportunities for you to learn also how to date with intention, how to do so with integrity and kindness in a way to grit into a great relationship. And now I know I don't have a television or anything like that, but I actively tried for a couple of years to welcome them into this conversation of better dating, healthier relationships, and fucking happiness for that matter. Not one. I'm fucking over it, guys. I'm fucking over fighting for romantic love right now. I am here to fight for love, for joy, for feeling good in our bodies, in our minds, with our emotion and our mental health, with creating the skills and mindsets that get us through these days. Because now, especially at my age, between life and kind of my body fucking breaking down and now perimenopause, it's all pretty overwhelming. And on some days, without the tools that I have, would be completely undoable. Honestly, I don't know how everybody's doing this out here. I've been like actively working on myself since the 20s and teaching this shit for over 15 years, and I am struggling. I don't even know how anybody else is doing it. I really fucking don't. And if you figured out the secrets, please bottle that up and sell it for the rest of us. But all I know is exactly what's unproven, which is we learn how to do all of this better. And I don't know if life gets easier. And I don't know if relationships get easier. And I don't know if jobs get easier or anything like that. But we can get better at it. And we can take shit not so seriously or so personally. We can learn what to react to or respond to and what to leave alone. We can learn how to self-soothe and emotional regulate. God, that's an expression I didn't even hear until 5 years ago. And then I'm like, we all need that. I'm here to fight for the individual to learn shit for themselves, whether you want to date or not, whether you want to invite another person into your life. That's all it is. So if you guys have a dating question, you can always ask it. This knowledge is not going anywhere. I'll still be talking about dating on Rom-Com Rescue. I actually will probably be bringing back a lot of my past podcasts that I moved into the vault. Because why the fuck not? It may not be immediately. I'm not sure how to do it. And it's probably going to be a process. And I also want to make sure I don't have shit up that doesn't represent me anymore, that doesn't represent what I believe and is always helpful more than any times harmful. Because I'll be honest, I think a lot of information is unfounded, not backed by any kind of facts, science, psychology, and being shared as truths. And whether it be in dating or whatever it is, stuff that is just somebody's opinion that's being sold as fact is unhelpful. And in fact, the amount of bullshit videos I see telling women how to act or men how to act to get love or find the man that won't get away or lock him down or be a man magnet, that's all bullshit. I hope that you walked away from the 12-year dating portion of this podcast with at least the knowledge of all of the shit telling you to be a different person, all of the shit telling you that you need to be more feminine or more this or more a goddess or whatever to get a guy. I hope that's bullshit. I hope that anybody telling you that you have to do anything besides healthy things like communication, boundaries, having good self-worth, all of that shit. Yes, we do need to work on that. But you don't need to lean into your feminine energy. You don't need to be a different person to be loved. And I'm just going to annoyingly say that fucking starts with yourself. It always has. It always will. And here is why. And then I'm going to move on to the topic today. I don't care who you are, where you are in life. And if you meet a great person, whether that be a date or even a friend or a perfect job, if we don't like ourselves, it's very hard to accept the rewards from that, to feel like we deserve it. And we will, even if we get into a relationship, slowly chip away at it if we don't deep down believe that we deserve it. We'll fix situations that were not asked to be fixed. We'll react because we think everything is personal. There is no hard and fast truth that you have to love yourself before somebody loves you. But there's a pretty good inclination that relationships and honestly most of the good benefits of life aren't going to feel that good, that easy, or that doable if we are constantly living in the fear-based place that they're going to go away, that they're going to leave, that they're going to finally see who you really are and not want you. That's where that's true. So I hope on this podcast, you still learn a ton of things that you can apply to your life. And it's going to be a little bit more focused, a little bit more directed. There's probably going to be series just like we are in right now for Midlife Conversations. I'm going to be bringing on more guests and experts to talk about things that have to do with positive psychology, to do with midlife that I don't know because I don't fucking know everything. Now that I'm talking about perimenopause, I don't know anything about perimenopause, only what I'm reading and horrifyingly going, wait, what? But I am going to bring on people who do know shit because I am horrified by just my random, interesting, or funny perimenopause posts. How many women are all of a sudden going, yeah, I talked to my doctor about some of these things and they just ignored it or told me it was in my head. That's happening in 2024 to something that has been happening to women over the age of perimenopause can show up as early 30s. This life is not easy. We have been sold this dream that once we got to this place and this happened and we had this person and everything else, we were on easy street. And I think we now all know that that's not true. So let's figure it out together. Let's look at things that we can actually do and not give all of our worth and happiness to another person and take it back for ourselves so that we can lead a better life, which in turn, I believe, makes us happier and then gets us also in better relationships and better friendships and better jobs. Hopefully that made sense and was just not me rambling for 15 minutes. But let's get into part 2 of Are You in Survival Mode? Let's figure out how to get through it. If you did not listen to yet the first part of this podcast, I do encourage you to go do so. I talked about what survival mode is, signs that you might be in survival mode. I talked about the effects of survival mode. And now I'm going to go into a couple more clarifying things, and then we're going to talk about how to get out of survival mode, because I'm hoping you took away this is not a great place to be in your head, in your body, period. It takes a toll, and it's not a great way to live. So maybe you're not sure yet, or maybe you thought one or two things match, but you're not sure. So here are some questions I found in an article that I will reference in the show notes of questions to clarify that we are in survival mode. So to identify the type of stress that you're experiencing, ask yourself these 4 key questions. So that's going to answer whether or not you're having normal human stress or you might be in survival mode, which is basically described as chronic stress, as in it just doesn't go away. Number 1, duration. Is the stress temporary? Has it been a couple hours or a couple of days? Or has it been going on for a long time? Meaning you're just always stressed. You're always on edge. I think that when we talk about type A people, I think sometimes we're describing people who are in some level of survival mode. Now, I don't think that's a blanket statement. I don't know a ton about type A personalities. I don't even know if it's really a thing anymore. I'm just throwing it out there. But look at, is this just a moment in time, such as a parent is ill and it's been a couple of days or weeks and you're having to deal with it. But once, hopefully, that is past its worst time, you can go back to feeling okay. Or do you just always feel like shit? If that's true, if you're constantly stressed, if you feel like you're on stress level or an intensity level all the time, you may be in survival mode. Next question, intensity. Does the stress feel manageable and motivating? Or is it overwhelming and debilitating? So not all stress is the same. And in fact, stress, anxiety, and excitement can sometimes trigger very similarly in the body. And that's why we don't know, oh my God, am I freaking out or am I excited? Or maybe I'm just a little bit of both. But does it feel manageable? And is it motivating you to get something done or moving you forward? Or is it overwhelming and debilitating? Does it shut you down when you take on projects? Do you start something and then you just can't figure out how to finish it? Do you maybe not even start new things because you don't think you can do it or do it well? What's the intensity? Third question, impact. Is the stress affecting your ability to live your life normally? Can you enjoy your daily activities or do you find them increasingly difficult? So let's talk about some ways that it might be affecting you to live your life normally. Number one, when we're usually stressed or in survival mode, we can't reach the kind and compassionate place of our mind and body very easily. We may be super judgy of all the people around us. We may be constantly resentful or angry at people in our lives. We might be snippy even when we don't want to be. Maybe somebody comes to us with a real thing and we instantly get defensive and can't even see what they're saying because it's overwhelming for them to say those things. Also, we talked about survival mode takes away sometimes our downtime and our hobbies because we're so just either dealing with or coping from the intense stress. Are you feeling like you can't take on as much at work as maybe you used to be able to? Or it all just feels so hard, you're just not as productive as you need to be to do your job well? These are all very real things. The fourth and final question is control. Do you feel like you have some control over the stressor, or do you feel powerless? Are you just stressed or freaked out or exhausted all the time and you don't feel like you can move it? You don't feel like you can shift it. And even if you feel good for a little bit, you always come back to it. Does it feel like you control it or it controls you? That's going to give you a general idea whether or not you're just dealing with some normal stress or whether you are in survival mode. So I feel like between these two podcasts, we should 100% be able to see if we're in survival mode or not. And if you are, here's the great news, everybody. There are absolutely things that you can do to work on it. Now, number one, if this intense stress has been there for a very long time and you think it might be from some trauma from earlier days, it could be childhood, your teen years, and your adulthood, something maybe happened that's kept you in this stress place or brought you to this stress place that you can't shake. That's where therapy comes in. And I'm going to actually include an article that tells the different types of therapy that are really helpful for trauma-based therapy. So what type of therapies can really help you with trauma? Because as I mentioned last time, and then compared it to deodorant, I'm sorry to every therapist out there, not all therapy and modalities are the same, and they don't all create the exact same results. So you may think therapy didn't work for you, but you just went to the wrong therapist or modality. But if you feel like you've done some healing and you're still not sure how to deal with stress, you still find it taking you out, even if it's not just particularly anything triggering you, just life, I got some things for you here. Number one, and this is with all self-work, you have to acknowledge it. To really start working on depression, we have to recognize and acknowledge that we're depressed. To work on anything new in our life, we have to first acknowledge that what's going on isn't working for us. I believe I've used the very technical phrase before. You have to get over your own shit. Please quote me on that. I think it's scientific. I think I'm so ridiculous. But you have to basically acknowledge it. There's so many people who are like, yeah, probably need to work on that. But they really haven't even taken in, yeah, this is a real fucking thing that's affecting and hurting my life, hurting my friendships, my relationships, my job, whatever it is, my overall happiness, which is really fucking important. And sometimes when we've been in survival mode for so long, we don't think there's anything but survival mode and that we just have shitty lives. And there's a good chance that that's not true. The next way to get out of survival mode starts with probably what I think is the number one skill that we can build and is so important that you can actually see after self-compassion training of meditation, of affirmations, that it changes in a brain scan. You can see the changes in your brain neural pathways after self-compassion work in a brain scan. Who else thinks that is fucking fascinating? When I started hearing, and by the way, a ton of that research has been done here at the University of Wisconsin-Madison by a named Dr. Richard Davidson. I feel so proud to have this happening here where I live. But self-compassion work, that's what builds self-worth. That's what can help get us through our days to feel better. But then most importantly, it helps us really up our empathy and our kindness towards others. Because there are still people on this earth, whether we're seeing them online or not, who deserve our kindness. But there's other really cool, interesting facts about self-compassion work. And in fact, here are scientific discoveries about self-compassion from my favorite self-compassion book. And this is going to explain what I was trying to say not so eloquently just a few minutes ago. There's a specific circuit in your brain that scientists call the care circuit, which creates the experience of compassion, warmth, and love. Self-compassion training strengthens your care circuit like exercising a muscle. With enough compassion training, your care circuit can literally grow in size so that the increase is visible on a brain scan. The care circuit is one of the primary emotional circuits in the brain that creates happiness and well-being. Activating the care circuit through self-compassion reduces every form of emotional distress, including anxiety, depression, and anger. Compassion training for 30 minutes a day for 14 days creates significant changes in the brain and leads to more pro-social and altruistic behavior. 8 weeks of compassion training can make your temperament or personality significantly more positive. And then finally, scientists have documented that Buddhist monks with intensive training in compassion have the strongest markers for happiness in their brains that have ever been recorded. How fucking cool is that? Now maybe you're like, self-compassion? What? I don't know how to do that. That sounds hard. I've read books before. I didn't do it. I got you. This is actually something we are 100% doing in Thrive. In fact, it is one of the main themes of Thrive. It's already part of the Rewire Your Brain section, but it's also something that we'll be working on from day one, as well as doing a daily 2-week Compassion Skills Challenge with me. I'm going to be doing it too. Because by the way, guys, I'm going to be doing almost all of the things in this program with you. So you're not doing it alone, and I'm not just telling you ideas. We're doing it all together. So the 2 weeks that I talked about, after 2 weeks, you will be significantly more positive. We are doing that together. We'll be checking in. You'll have accountability buddies. There's no way you can't do it. The next way to get out of survival mode is to prioritize self-care. Now, I think people are so confused what self-care is. And most importantly, self-care is putting things in your day that keep you emotionally, mentally, and physically healthy and regulated. That's all it is. It's not bubble baths unless bubble baths do that for you. But a lot of times it's boundaries, it's speaking up for yourself, it's feeling your feelings and processing your emotions. All of those keep us functioning in our bodies and our minds. So taking care of yourself is crucial, and adding things that benefit your physical, mental, and emotional health into your daily routine, even small stuff, can make a huge impact. And if you're not sure how to do that, we actually create a daily happiness self-care kit that you build over 8 months. So you start off with one thing, and once you spend a long time doing that and it's part of your ritual, then we start adding in the next thing and then the next thing. So it becomes part of a self-care ritual that is personalized to you and your experience, that you have the resources, the community, and the support for actual change. The next way that we can get out of survival mode, and this has been a game changer for my life, is learning how to emotionally regulate and self-soothe. I think that, and I've mentioned that why I think midlife is hitting Gen X, particularly Gen X women, a very certain way, is because we're so hyper independent. That is from us having parents who weren't home. Not their fault, but just what the culture was. And we didn't have anybody there to help talk through our emotions. So I see a lot of people 35, 40 and up who either, here are ways that, by the way, if you are not emotionally regulated, it shows up. Number one, you push that shit down. You feel a feeling and it doesn't feel good. Boom. Nope. Not even thinking about it. Pushing that away, pushing it down. Start to feel crying. Nope, not crying. Problem is, you don't feel those feelings. They don't go anywhere. They just stick around in your brain, haunting you. The next way it can show up is, even if you are patient most of the time, just occasionally you lose your shit on people. Maybe a coworker, maybe a family member, maybe your partner, maybe your kids. But you can't control it. You just get so frustrated or so worked up that you lash out at people that you even care about. That is emotional dysregulation. And that's not to say that we don't get to be mad. And honestly, if you're not fucking mad about our world and our country right now, I don't know why you wouldn't be. However, there is a difference between having anger and lashing out on other people, tearing them down. Such as, sometimes I or Danny are angry at a situation or the world in general, but we don't take that out on each other. You can express emotions without it affecting those around you. Other ways that emotional dysregulation can show up: experiencing strong emotional reactions in a way that wouldn't really affect other people, or is a really overreactive response. One thing I would say is, we recently broke down the movie Anyone But You, which I did not like. You can listen to a full hour and a half of me telling you all the reasons why I did not like it. But one of the things that happens in this movie is the two characters meet, there's a flirtation, they end up drinking a little bit, they end up kissing a little bit, they wake up in bed together the next day. I do not believe that they have slept together, but they both hurt each other's feelings by leaving and not talking about what it meant to them. And the next time they see each other, they are heinous and mean and loathing and hateful to each other. And to me, that's not a normal reaction to two people choosing to make out for a night, have a good time, didn't discuss it, nobody came back and figured that out, and then they're mean to each other for the rest of the fucking movie. This is a humongous overreaction to one evening versus that's a reaction to somebody who's had a long relationship and has felt betrayed. See the difference there? Mood swings. You're okay one moment, the next minute you're like out of control. I think another thing is you're completely overwhelmed with emotions. When you do feel anger, when you cannot push them back or away anymore, they take over everything in your life and maybe the life of everybody around you. So they have to walk on eggshells. It can also lead to self-harm and excessive substance abuse because instead of feeling our feelings, that's what numbing does, is it helps us not think about those feelings. But with all things in life, you can only ignore them for so long, they're going to be felt. I think learning to emotionally regulate and self-soothe is one of the most beautiful things you can do for yourself and for the people in your life. Because when we are emotionally regulated, we are safe. We're safe to be around. They know we're not going to hijack the conversation because of our story and feelings. We're not going to lose our shit on them. We're probably going to speak up in a kind way if something bothers us. When we are emotionally regulated, we are safe. And to me, safe is 10 times more important than kind. Certainly more than nice. Because safe is people know what to expect from you, and they know that they can feel things around you and have their own human experience without you taking it out on them. I know a lot of people my age are not emotionally regulated. I can't believe, tell me, because we were discussing this weekend, Danny was joining the conversation, but how many of us who are around my age maybe had teachers who screamed? I had a first grade teacher who would yell at us every day, all day. I was really, really freaked out and upset that whole entire year. Everybody knew the teachers who were yellers. And as kids, we were just expected to take that. That's not good. That's not healthy. And I fully understand that education is a tough, underpaid system. But we shouldn't be lashing out at each other, and we certainly should not be lashing out at children. But we even discussed teachers who would take students in the hall and throw them up against lockers. One of my friends shared that her brother had a teacher leave marks on his neck. You don't see that shit anymore. That's what we were raised in. That was our fucking norm. Wonder why you are the way that you are in your life and relationships? Look back to some of this generational trauma for who we are and what we learned. Don't be mad at yourself if this is happening. But understand that shouldn't be the norm, and we can do better. We were just not raised with any of this information. In Thrive, I've invited many people to help us learn how to regulate our emotions. Number one, and we'll be doing a podcast, Crosby Norix is our somatics practitioner. And she is going to teach us how to feel our feelings. She's going to teach us how to connect what we're learning in our mind and apply it to our bodies so you actually completely take it in. Because when you only take things in your mind, a lot of times we can't apply them. We have the knowledge, but not the insight, the intuition. We're also going to be doing art therapy, which is another way to process and feel. And in fact, there's a whole section on emotions and understanding them, feelings and how to feel them in a healthy way and let go of them, how to process them, what to do, so that that's not a thing anymore. Next, how to get out of survival mode. Create a daily routine that can provide a sense of order and normalcy and help bring balance in your tough days. And if you're like me, And in the past, you've had a hard time creating and sticking to routines because you're so black and white, you're so all in or all out that it never sticks. I got you, because we're going to, in the program, create your happiest life plan. And it's going to help you create the new goals and dreams to replace maybe the ones that don't fit anymore. After your life assessment and happiness assessment that we do together and have a 90-minute call, just you and me personally, at the retreat, you will slowly start to build your happiest life. And throughout the 8 months, we'll be figuring out how to get to that place. It's going to be fucking phenomenal. You guys, I can't even tell you the cool stuff I have planned. It's completely different than anything I've ever done. But I've created a whole process for you to create rituals that work, even for the ADHD like me, even for the people who have rarely gotten things to stick. We're going to do this. We're going to do it together. Which brings me to one of the last things, which is focusing on small steps. Maybe you can't do Thrive right now. That's cool. Maybe you're not 40 yet. That's cool too. But these are things that you can be doing. Setting, achieving small goals. It can boost our self-esteem, so not self-worth, but self-esteem, as well as provide a sense of accomplishment, which is actually one of the 5 things, the A in PERMA, which is the foundations of positive psychology. When we set small and achievable goals for ourselves, we start to believe in ourselves. We start to believe that we are trustworthy and safe. It's a real fucking thing. And I've created a process and even a workbook that's going to have daily steps to help you with that. There will be no fake it till you make it. You will have the resources and support and accountability to make those changes. And then finally, seek support and community, always. You don't have to do any of these things alone. The biggest fucking lie is that you do. Whether or not you can join me in Thrive this time or this year or ever, there are groups and resources, not just information, everybody. Stop just collecting information. That's not helpful. You need to be processing. You need to be taking in information not only in your mind, but also into your body. And then you need to apply and practice. Survival mode is what happens from stress, from a tough life. But you don't have to stay there. And throw perimenopause on top of it, and to me, not having these skills in place, you're just making things so much harder than it has to be. I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago on why we change, but I think a lot of us have stopped trusting ourselves. We've tried to do things differently. We've tried to make changes. We've tried to apply all of the things that we've learned, and it hasn't worked. And that's okay. It just means that you might have to try a different way. I can help you. Please, let me help you, everybody. There are thousands of people who listen to this podcast. Thousands. Most of them women. Most of them in my age range. Most of them struggling. Not just with being single, but also the weird shit that comes up physically, mentally, and emotionally after just being alive on this earth for 40, 45, 50, 55 years. Even if you're not sure, put an application. Check this out with me. If it's not in your budget, start saving for next year. If you don't like your life, you're not a tree. You can change it. You're not so stuck. Your roots are not so fucking far down that who you are is who you will always have to be. But it's not going to change because you read a book. And it's probably not going to change because you listen to this podcast. It's going to change when you get the proper support, the proper knowledge, the proper community, the proper accountability to slowly apply it to your life and practice it. I found the love of my life. For those of you who have been here for a while, you'll know that I met Danny in the middle of this business. I was already 7 years into this business when I met him. I actually don't think I ever thought that I would be in a long-term relationship or married. And here is the thing, as I look at the fresh chocolate chip cookies that he made for me last night that are right next to me, and the slightly messy but beautiful apartment we have together with our gorgeous animals that are pain in our existence, and I love them to death, I'm going to let you in on a really unfortunate truth. I found that dream. I have somebody who loves me unconditionally. I have somebody who shows up for me, does a lot of the cooking and cleaning, even after he's worked an 8-hour day. Any of you who have met Danny on a retreat or an event know that he is a good guy. And it didn't change my shit. I'm still struggling in some ways. It didn't make everything better. I was not rescued and all my problems were solved because I was now in a relationship. And if I can impart one thing from all of my talk on this podcast about love and relationships, is that if you are in a healthy, functioning relationship, because it's truly what it has to be, it helps. But the work is still on you. Danny has changed my life for the better, but he has not changed my life. He has helped me create a space where I feel safe enough to start working on those changes. And in this program, I have created a space for 14 women to know each other, support each other, create something so fucking special, and have legitimately the best year of their lives so that they can make those changes slowly but surely. This life we have set up for ourselves, isn't that fun? And some of us are so hard on ourselves that we don't even want to do this work because we think it's a fucking shortcut. But I posted a really good post on Instagram recently. I did not create it because I share a lot of smart things that other people share. And this is what it said. This is your daily reminder to not be ashamed of making your life easy for yourself. Cut your food into small pieces. Make the font size 30 on your ebook. Get a pen that's comfortable to hold. Take more naps. Walk slower. Eat another cookie. Buy Velcro shoes. Rewatch the part you couldn't understand the first time. Write things down or on your hand so you don't forget. Whatever you want and or need. Don't let anyone tell you how you should be doing things. We don't need to prove each other anything. I think that's fucking stunning. Because I was raised, suck it up and figure it out. And I'm not doing it anymore. I'm here for the soft life. I don't think I'm probably saying that correctly. But I'm here for kindness. I'm here for community. I'm here for friendship. I'm here for hugs. I'm here for joy. I'm here for laughter. And I understand that with all of those wonderful things comes some stuff too. But I talk to a lot of people, guys. Not just on the phone, but in DMs, get emails. I know a lot of you are struggling. You don't have to be. And by the way, you toughing it out by yourself, there's no trophy coming in the mail. I promise you, I would have gotten about 17 of them now. Nobody thinks you're greater because you didn't take the easy way or the shortcut. Honestly, most people aren't even noticing what the fuck we're doing. They're so worried about themselves. If your life sucks, it doesn't have to. But you're going to have to be the one to change it. All right, guys, that's it for today. Whew! Are you in survival mode? As one of my awesome ladies from my former OM said, aren't we all? And right now, as I start this podcast between, for me, midlife and perimenopause, our country right now and the politics, as well as just life, we're at a perfect storm. Get through this with me. If you liked this, if somebody just sent you here because you're not single and now this is a different podcast, please subscribe. I don't always put things out weekly. Sometimes I put things out 3 times a week. Sometimes I'll have a week and a half to 2 weeks in between. So subscribe so you know exactly when things go live. Finally, if you really love it, please leave a review. Whether it's just some stars on Apple or Spotify, or really writing down what you are learning and loving about this podcast. I read every single one. They fucking make my day. You are the wind beneath my wings. And it helps get it out there. Because honestly, as much as I can say this, for as much feedback I get about this podcast, which is a lot, and most of it all very positive, even if you never share this with another person, by you writing an anonymous review, that lets other people know this might be something that they want to check out. All right, guys. I'm actually probably going to be back in a few days with one of my guests to talk about perimenopause, to talk about emotional regulation, to talk about some of these things a little more deeply so we can learn what to do and then how to apply. And then I don't think I can say this again. Please go check out thrivewithkira.com. Put an application in if you think you can make it work, if that works with your schedule. All payment plans are basically doable. Let's just do this together. I already have a couple stellar, amazing women in the program. I can't wait to just keep adding to it. I'll see you soon. And until then, I don't know. Let's thrive. I got to come up with you guys can send me ideas for my new outro statement. Meet joy halfway? I don't know. Work with me.